Don't leave now, my beloved child, because this is the chapter where everything your soulmate once believed about love begins to transform. There are seasons in life when it feels as though nothing is moving. The days blend together. The nights become quiet companions. The heart wonders whether the waiting has any purpose at all. But listen carefully, because some of life's greatest changes happen so gradually that they cannot be recognized while they are unfolding. A mountain is not carved in a single day. A river does not create a canyon overnight. In the same way, your soulmate has been changing one quiet moment at a time. Every difficult conversation, every tear that no one witnessed, every silent prayer whispered before falling asleep has slowly shaped someone who is stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than they have ever been before. Stay till the end, because what they are about to discover will become one of the most meaningful lessons of their entire journey. For so long, your soulmate believed that love meant constantly proving their loyalty. They believed that if they loved hard enough, waited long enough, forgave enough times, or sacrificed enough pieces of themselves, eventually everything would become the beautiful story they imagined. They carried hope through situations that offered very little certainty. They defended people who did not always defend them. They gave chances that perhaps should have become boundaries much sooner. Looking back now, they do not judge that version of themselves with shame. Instead, they see someone whose greatest mistake was believing that genuine love required endless self-sacrifice. That realization has become one of the most valuable gifts life has ever given them. Listen carefully because this changes everything. There comes a point where the heart quietly asks itself a question it has avoided for years. What if I have spent so much time trying to be enough for someone else that I forgot to ask whether they were enough for me? That single question begins changing the entire direction of a person's life. Suddenly, the focus shifts away from chasing approval and toward recognizing mutual respect. Instead of wondering why someone else failed to choose them, your soulmate begins choosing themselves. Not from pride. Not from anger. But from a place of deep understanding that self-respect is not the opposite of love, it is one of its most important foundations. As the days continued passing, your soulmate may have noticed that life itself felt different. They smiled more naturally. They laughed without forcing it. They no longer carried the same heaviness into every room they entered. Friends may have quietly noticed the difference before they did. Family members may have sensed that something had changed. Even strangers sometimes seemed drawn toward the peaceful energy they now carried. It wasn't because life had suddenly become perfect. It was because the battle inside their own heart had finally begun settling into peace. When the storm within becomes quiet, the entire world begins looking different. Stay with me, my beloved child, because another beautiful truth is waiting to unfold. Imagine walking through a long tunnel, believing darkness will never end. Then, almost without realizing it, you begin noticing tiny streams of light ahead. At first, they seem so small that you question whether they are even real. But with every step forward, those small rays become brighter until suddenly you realize you have almost reached the other side. Your soulmate's healing has been exactly like that. There was never one dramatic moment where everything suddenly became easy. Instead, hundreds of tiny moments slowly gathered together until hope became stronger than fear. That is how lasting healing is often born, not through one miracle, but through countless quiet victories that no one else ever sees. Don't skip because what happens next carries extraordinary meaning. There may soon come a day when your soulmate hears a familiar name or revisits a familiar place and feels something completely unexpected. Nothing. Not because those memories were unimportant, but because they no longer control the heart they once wounded. That moment will become one of the clearest signs of true healing. The past will still exist, but it will no longer possess the power to steal today's peace. They will quietly smile, not because they have forgotten, but because they have finally become free. Listen carefully because another chapter is beginning to open. Your soulmate is slowly discovering that peace is something they create within themselves before they ever find it in another person. This realization changes every future relationship they will ever experience. No longer will they confuse emotional uncertainty with excitement. No longer will they mistake inconsistency for mystery. Instead, they have begun appreciating something much quieter but infinitely more valuable. They appreciate people whose words and actions agree with one another. They appreciate honesty that requires no guessing. They appreciate kindness that remains steady instead of appearing only when convenient. Those qualities have become more attractive than grand promises ever could be. Meanwhile, life continues offering everyone opportunities to reflect upon their own choices. Sometimes reflection arrives through conversations. Sometimes through silence. Sometimes simply through the passage of time itself. Regardless of how those lessons appear, every person eventually reaches moments where they consider what truly matters. Those reflections are deeply personal, and they often become the starting point for meaningful growth. Your soulmate has already begun walking that path within themselves, choosing to learn from the past rather than remain trapped inside it. My beloved child, perhaps the greatest transformation of all is this. Your soulmate has stopped waiting for the perfect moment to begin living again. They are beginning now. They are allowing themselves to dream again. They are making plans that once felt impossible. They are rediscovering passions that had been buried beneath disappointment. They are remembering the parts of themselves that existed long before heartbreak ever entered their story. Those pieces were never truly lost. They were simply waiting beneath the weight of pain until hope became strong enough to uncover them once again. Stay till the end because one final realization may change everything. One day, your soulmate will look back at this season of life and understand that the greatest gift they received was never the ending of one chapter. The greatest gift was discovering who they became because they refused to let that ending define them. They became someone who understands the value of peace. Someone who protects their heart without closing it. Someone who believes in love without abandoning wisdom. Someone who has learned that genuine connection is built through patience, honesty, trust, and consistent care rather than emotional uncertainty. And now, my beloved child, as another sunrise slowly rises across the horizon, your soulmate steps forward carrying something they once believed had been lost forever. Hope. Not fragile hope built upon another person's choices, but steady hope rooted in their own growth, resilience, and quiet confidence. The road ahead will continue revealing unexpected blessings, meaningful connections, and opportunities to experience life in ways they never imagined while they were standing inside the storm. The story is still unfolding. The journey is still continuing. And with every peaceful step they take, your soulmate moves further away from fear and closer to a future where love is no longer something they chase through uncertainty, but something they recognize through trust, mutual respect, and the calm assurance that comes from finally knowing their own worth. My beloved child, the next chapter has only just begun, and what waits beyond the horizon may be more beautiful than anything your soulmate once believed possible. Don't leave now, my beloved child, because the story is reaching a place where every lesson your soulmate has carried is beginning to reveal its true purpose. There are seasons when the heart believes it has reached the end of its strength. There are nights when the silence feels louder than every word that was ever spoken. There are mornings when simply getting out of bed feels like a victory that no one else will ever understand. Yet those hidden victories often become the foundation upon which the greatest transformations are built. Your soulmate may never fully realize how many invisible battles they have already won. Every moment they chose kindness over bitterness, every day they continued moving forward despite uncertainty, every quiet decision to believe that tomorrow could be brighter than yesterday has slowly been rewriting the story they once thought was already finished. Stay till the end because what they are about to understand is far greater than anything they have imagined. For a long time, your soulmate believed that love was something they had to constantly fight to keep. They thought that if they became more patient, more understanding, more forgiving, perhaps everything would eventually become peaceful. They carried hope through moments that gave them very little reason to continue hoping. They overlooked words that should have mattered. They ignored feelings that tried to protect them. They silenced their own intuition because they feared that listening to it might mean letting go of someone they cared about deeply. Looking back now, they no longer blame themselves for loving wholeheartedly. Instead, they recognize that their heart was always searching for something beautiful. The mistake was never loving too much. The mistake was believing that genuine love could grow where honesty, trust, and mutual effort were missing. That realization has become one of the greatest turning points of their entire life. Listen carefully because this changes everything. Your soulmate has reached a place where they are no longer asking life to return what has already passed. They are quietly preparing themselves for what is still waiting ahead. There is a tremendous difference between those two ways of living. One keeps the heart trapped inside memories that cannot be rewritten. The other opens the soul to possibilities that have not yet arrived. Every sunrise now carries a different meaning. Instead of asking, "Will yesterday finally come back?" they are beginning to ask, "What beautiful thing might tomorrow bring?" That single shift has changed the direction of every dream they carry inside their heart. Stay with me, my beloved child, because another beautiful truth is beginning to unfold. Healing has given your soulmate something far more valuable than answers. It has given them discernment. They now notice things they once overlooked. They recognize the difference between attention and genuine care. They understand the difference between temporary excitement and lasting peace. They know that consistency speaks louder than promises. They have learned that trust grows slowly through everyday actions rather than dramatic declarations. These lessons did not arrive easily. They were earned through moments of disappointment that eventually became stepping stones toward wisdom. Meanwhile, life continues moving with quiet purpose. Every season brings opportunities for reflection. Every chapter offers lessons that cannot be learned any other way. Somewhere, another person may also be looking back upon moments that once seemed insignificant. Time has a remarkable ability to deepen understanding. Conversations that once felt ordinary may now carry unexpected meaning. Acts of kindness that were once overlooked may become impossible to forget. Reflection often arrives gently, asking questions that only honesty can answer. Regardless of where anyone else stands in their own journey, your soulmate has already discovered something that cannot be taken away, the understanding that their peace no longer depends upon another person's choices. Don't skip because another extraordinary chapter is opening before your soulmate even realizes it. There will come a season when they stop introducing themselves through their pain. They will no longer define their life by who disappointed them, who misunderstood them, or who failed to recognize their worth. Instead, they will begin speaking from a place of gratitude for everything those experiences quietly taught them. They will recognize themselves as someone who remained compassionate without becoming weak, someone who became wiser without becoming fearful, and someone who continued believing that healthy love still exists despite everything they had experienced. That identity will become stronger than any painful memory from the past. Listen carefully because one of the greatest miracles often happens in complete silence. There comes a day when your soulmate realizes they have spent hours, perhaps even an entire day, without reliving the chapters that once consumed every thought. The memories have not disappeared, but they no longer control the present. They become part of a larger story instead of the entire story itself. That moment may seem small to everyone else, yet inside their heart it feels like freedom. It is the quiet realization that healing has finally become stronger than heartbreak. That peace cannot be purchased. It cannot be borrowed from another person. It can only be earned by courageously walking through every difficult season without giving up on yourself. My beloved child, imagine standing beside the ocean after surviving a violent storm. The waves continue moving just as they always have, but now they no longer frighten you. Why? Because you have already discovered your own strength. Your soulmate has become much like that traveler standing beside the sea. They know that challenges will continue appearing because life is filled with changing seasons. But they also know something they once doubted. They know they are capable of surviving whatever tomorrow brings. That confidence does not remove every obstacle, but it removes the fear that once magnified every obstacle beyond reality. Confidence born from experience becomes one of life's greatest gifts. Stay till the end because another beautiful realization is waiting. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that real love is never supposed to feel like a constant test of endurance. Real love creates space for honesty. It encourages growth rather than fear. It brings emotional safety instead of endless uncertainty. It allows two people to remain completely themselves without feeling pressured to constantly earn acceptance. That understanding has quietly become the standard by which your soulmate will measure every future relationship. They are no longer searching for someone to rescue them from loneliness. They are simply hoping to meet someone willing to walk beside them with honesty, kindness, and mutual respect. As another sunrise slowly approaches, your soulmate may notice something remarkable happening inside their own heart. Dreams they once abandoned begin returning. Hobbies that once brought joy slowly become exciting again. The future begins feeling larger than the past. New possibilities become easier to imagine. They smile more often without forcing themselves. They laugh with a freedom they thought had disappeared forever. These are not accidents. They are signs that life is quietly inviting them back into the present moment after years spent carrying yesterday upon their shoulders. Listen carefully because the greatest revelation of all may already be unfolding. Every painful chapter your soulmate once begged to escape has become the very reason they now recognize the priceless value of peace. Every difficult goodbye has taught them to appreciate consistency. Every disappointment has strengthened their ability to protect their heart without closing it. Every unanswered question has taught them to trust that clarity often arrives exactly when it is needed. Looking back, they may one day realize that nothing they experienced was wasted. Every lesson became part of the foundation supporting the extraordinary future they are now beginning to build. And now, my beloved child, your soulmate stands on the edge of another beautiful beginning. The road ahead will continue revealing opportunities they cannot yet imagine, friendships they have not yet met, conversations that will restore hope, and moments that will remind them why they never gave up. They are no longer walking toward a future defined by fear or regret. They are walking toward a future shaped by wisdom, resilience, self-respect, and quiet confidence. They have learned that genuine love never demands the loss of one's identity. Instead, it encourages every beautiful part of a person's soul to grow even brighter. And as the next chapter slowly begins unfolding, your soulmate will carry with them the greatest treasure of all, not the approval of those who failed to understand them, but the unshakable peace that comes from finally understanding themselves. That, my beloved child, is where the most extraordinary part of this journey truly begins. And the story is still far from over. Don't leave now, my beloved child, because there is one final layer of this journey that your soulmate has not yet fully discovered. Sometimes the greatest changes happen so quietly that the heart doesn't recognize them until it looks back months later. While your soulmate believed they were simply surviving another ordinary day, life was carefully weaving together moments that would eventually become the strongest foundation they had ever stood upon. Every delay carried a lesson. Every disappointment carried hidden wisdom. Every season of waiting slowly prepared them for a future they could never have imagined while they were still looking through the tears of yesterday. Listen carefully because what unfolds next is not simply another chapter, it is the moment where hope begins speaking louder than fear. There was a time when your soulmate believed that every unanswered question needed an answer before they could finally move forward. They searched endlessly for explanations that never seemed to arrive. They replayed old conversations, wondering whether different words might have created different endings. They questioned their own decisions far more than they questioned the circumstances around them. Yet time has quietly revealed something extraordinary. Some questions lose their importance the moment a heart finally discovers peace. Some answers become unnecessary because healing itself becomes the answer. Looking back, your soulmate may eventually smile at the countless nights spent searching for explanations, realizing that the greatest explanation was never hidden in someone else's actions. It was hidden in the remarkable person they slowly became through every difficult experience. Stay till the end because this changes everything. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that their life is no longer divided into before the heartbreak and after the heartbreak. Instead, they are entering an entirely new season where the past no longer defines the future. Every morning now offers possibility instead of fear. Every new experience becomes an opportunity instead of another reason to hesitate. The walls they once built for protection are slowly becoming healthy boundaries instead of emotional prisons. This is one of the most beautiful forms of healing because it allows a heart to remain open without becoming vulnerable to the same painful patterns that once caused so much sorrow. Listen carefully, my beloved child, because another extraordinary truth is waiting to be revealed. There comes a moment when someone realizes they are no longer trying to prove their worth to people who failed to recognize it. Instead, they begin quietly living in a way that reflects the value they have finally discovered within themselves. Your soulmate has started walking differently. They speak with greater confidence. They protect their time with greater wisdom. They no longer apologize for needing honesty, consistency, kindness, or respect. Those qualities are no longer viewed as impossible expectations. They are recognized as the very foundation upon which every meaningful relationship should be built. As this transformation continues, your soulmate may begin noticing that life itself responds differently. Opportunities that once felt impossible begin appearing naturally. Meaningful conversations happen unexpectedly. Doors that remained closed for years suddenly begin opening without force. At first, these moments may seem like simple coincidences. But over time, they reveal a powerful truth. When someone begins living in alignment with their own values, they often become more open to recognizing healthy opportunities that were previously overlooked. The world itself has not necessarily changed. Their perspective has. And that change influences every choice they make moving forward. Don't skip because another beautiful realization is quietly unfolding. Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase for so many years that you eventually forget what it feels like to walk without it. Then one day, almost by accident, you finally set it down. At first, you keep reaching back for the weight because it has become so familiar. But after taking a few more steps, you realize something incredible. Walking feels easier. Breathing feels deeper. The journey suddenly feels possible again. That is exactly what your soulmate is experiencing. The emotional burdens they carried for so long are no longer defining every step they take. They are discovering what life feels like when the heart is no longer constantly looking backward. My beloved child, perhaps the greatest lesson of all is beginning to settle deep within their soul. They now understand that genuine love never demands the loss of personal peace. Real love never asks someone to silence their intuition in order to keep another person comfortable. Real love creates space for honesty, mutual respect, forgiveness, and growth. It encourages two people to become the best versions of themselves rather than asking either one to become smaller. Your soulmate may have spent years searching for this understanding, but now it has become part of who they are. No future disappointment can erase that wisdom because it has been earned through lived experience. Stay with me because another extraordinary chapter is approaching. There will come a season when your soulmate realizes they have become the source of encouragement they once desperately searched for in others. The words they needed to hear now come naturally from within. The reassurance they once waited to receive now grows from their own confidence. The hope they once believed someone else would restore has quietly become part of their own heart. This inner stability changes every future relationship because it allows them to love from a place of fullness instead of fear. They are no longer asking another person to complete them. They are simply ready to share the beautiful life they have worked so hard to rebuild. Listen carefully because this final message may become the most important of all. There will always be people who misunderstand your soulmate story because they only witnessed one chapter instead of the entire journey. Some knew them only during seasons of pain. Others knew them only after healing had already begun. Very few people will ever understand every invisible battle they fought in silence. But that is perfectly all right. Their purpose is not to convince everyone else to understand. Their purpose is to continue walking forward with integrity, kindness, and quiet confidence, knowing that every difficult season has prepared them for a future built upon truth instead of fear. And now, my beloved child, as another sunrise slowly begins painting the horizon with light, your soulmate stands before a future unlike anything they once imagined. They are no longer defined by unanswered questions. They are no longer trapped by old disappointments. They are no longer waiting for yesterday to become different. Instead, they are stepping into tomorrow carrying something infinitely more valuable than certainty. They are carrying wisdom. With every challenge overcome. Most importantly, they are carrying a heart that has finally discovered one unforgettable truth. The greatest miracle was never changing the past. The greatest miracle was allowing the past to shape them into someone capable of embracing a brighter future without fear. And as this extraordinary journey continues unfolding, one peaceful step after another, your soulmate will discover that the life waiting ahead is not built upon everything they lost. It is built upon everything they found within themselves while learning how to rise again. My beloved child, this is not the ending. This is the beginning of the most meaningful chapter their soul has ever been prepared to live.